Welcome to New Zealand's home of rugby, Eden Park, Auckland. And the All Blacks defending the trophy first donated by former Governor Lord Bledisloe nearly 60 years ago. It's the symbol of trans-Tasman rugby supremacy. It's the Bledisloe Cup. Well, conditions here, as you can see, are very blustery indeed. There's a very strong nor'easter prevailing, but thankfully there's no round and the ground is in very good situation, so that is great news for the Australian team. They arrived a short time ago. Simon Porterman with the ball. Journey's end, as he calls it. Bill Campbell, the giant, who'll play such a crucial role today in the line-outs. But Ian Williams, Tim Gavin there, the reserve. But the Australians have been very happy with their build-up over the last few days. Australian captain Nick Farr-Jones. Nick, how's everyone feeling?
Oh, extremely well, mate. We've had a good preparation over the last 3 days, and we've just had a good physical or mental build-up for the game at the pub before we left, and yeah, we're feeling good.
What about the new boys?
Yeah, look, they're very nervous. I mean, we all are, and I told them to cherish the moment, the nerves. They'll never forget their first test, but hopefully they'll savour the moment at the end of the game, and I think they'll do very well. We told them, you know, not to go out and just try and do the simple things well, but go out and really lead the team and play with confidence, and I'm sure you'll see some great games from them.
Good luck, and go and do your stuff. New Zealand's last loss on home soil was at this ground in 1986. The Bledisloe Cup was at stake, and 14 of today's 30 players took part in the third and deciding test match. Kirk is there, and now it's Craig Green.
With the series level, the All Blacks moved the ball from all parts of the field in a style more akin to the Wallabies.
Leeds did well. Wetton. The ball being kept alive by New Zealand. Here they go again. Overlap. Stone. Crowley's outside. Kerwin. New Zealand still charging ahead. Brewer. Just short.
But Australia's defence held and was then rewarded with the series-winning try.
Trying to work a loop. Australia could score if New Zealand aren't careful. Here they go. Farr-Jones. Overlap for Campese. He's there! Australia has won the cup. David Campese is overjoyed.
In '87, New Zealand regained the cup. Last year, they faced a confident Australian team, buoyed by a home series win over England. The All Blacks struck hard, winning the first test easily, but Australia then staged a magnificent comeback in the second at Ballymore to force a 19-all draw.
Great try!
All Black power reasserted itself in Sydney, and the cup remained in New Zealand hands.
Right ball for New Zealand to Fox. Here they go. Schuster, Collin, Kerwin. Australia defending desperately in the early stages. Richard Lowe into Farr-Jones. Australian forwards caught short here. There's an overlap for New Zealand. Kerwin. Campese brings him down. Stanley tackled. Grant the man round his hips. Deans sniping. Close. Try. New Zealand's last test loss was in Nantes against the French, and since then they're unbeaten in 16 internationals, averaging over 40 points per game. Australia, on the other hand, after the series loss to the Lions, go in today as rank underdogs. Timon got it to Campbell. The Australians outsmarting. Farr-Jones with a long pass here for Maguire. It's Martin. Back it goes to Goulet.
1989 has been a mixed one for Australia, with a smashing first test win against the Lions, but narrow losses in the remaining two internationals saw the series slip away.
Away to Andrew. Can they get it wide here? Long cut out. The pass is okay. Hastings is there. And the referee says yes.
The powerful Lions pack had the Australian forwards on the back foot, and the need for a more physical approach up front was highlighted.
Wheeled the 90. Richards comes away. That's a tight head. Psychological blow there for the Lions pack, and they're very hungry. Jones sniping himself 15 metres out. This is Ackford. Richards there. So too is Calder. Australia under heavy pressure here.
Across the Tasman, though, in '89, it's been a different story.
Kicking nicely up the blind side. Kerwin is pressurising Lynagh. Kerwin now. Kerwin clear. Pass to Fitzpatrick is on the deck. 4 is Murray Pearce. Shelford plays halfback. Fox. Stanley. Swing it wide.
The All Blacks this year have been all-conquering, twice beating an enterprising French side and then annihilating a lacklustre Argentina.
Coming on the All Black side, Shelford, up to Kerwin, Jones, Michael Jones, and Michael Jones does it again. And that's his second for the day. And the All Blacks have scored 10 tries.
And a tragedy for Michael Jones, out with severe knee damage after that game. But with me in commentary, Chris Handy and Gary Pearce, who played in Australia's great win at Eden Park in 1978. We're feeling a bit like the 3 brass monkeys up here at the moment, but 109 points in 2 internationals against the Pumas. Is that a suitable preparation for New Zealand, Chris?
Good, and I think so. This is a great New Zealand side. They not only win the ball, but they use it very well. And when the opposition have it, they pressure. Australia have got to do 3 things today and do them well. A stable scrum, quality possession from the line out, and above all, maintain the ball in the tackle and win the ball that they're taken into the breakdowns. They need to do that to win. Gary Pearce.
New Zealand have traditionally had problems with the open Australian style of play. That Australian style of play is less predictable and offers the opportunity to move the ball away from those very strong All Black packs. If Australia today can win a fair share of possession and move that ball wide, there's a chance of knocking off the world champions.
Well, it really is a wonderful atmosphere here at Eden Park. The cheerleaders performing at the moment, but despite all the rain we've had yesterday, the ground is in superb condition. That really is a tribute to the ground staff. And 47,000 people here at Eden Park. The game also being televised live throughout New Zealand and, of course, live throughout Australia on ABC television. Well, the Australian selectors have certainly gambled for this summit clash against the All Blacks. 5 changes to the 3rd Test side, beaten 19-18 by the Lions, including 3 new caps. They are teenager Tim Horan at outside centre, and in the front row, prop Tony Daly and hooker Phil Kearns. The 2 great warriors, Andy McIntyre and Simon Poitevin, are back for one last tilt at the All Blacks, and then they'll slip back into retirement. Australia's hopes revolve around the Twin Towers, Bill Campbell and Steve Cutler in the line-out. Pace and flair in the backs can capitalise on their good deeds. New Zealand side contains, unlike Australia, it's a very settled, well-oiled combination and has only 1 change for the first time in 7 Test matches. Flanker Michael Jones damaged those medial and cruciate ligaments, and his place taken by Otago captain Mike Brewer. The point-scoring machine Grant Fox is closing on 300 in tests after scoring 72 in the 4 home internationals this year against France and Argentina. Well, this is now a familiar sight for Australians, and as I mentioned, Gary Pearce and Chris Handy played in that great win in 1978 when Australia won by 30 points to 16. Tony Shaw's Wallabies. Greg Cornelson scored 4 tries and Gary Pearce scored 1. That must have been a thrill, but what about today?
Well, it was a tremendous memories from that particular day, but we came into a test then as underdogs. The series was down, they'd won the series, and we came into a game with nothing to lose. And I think Australia is in the exact situation today and really has an opportunity, nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Gary, very similar circumstances. Australia were really battered in the 2nd Test here in 1978. It is a game of rugby. It's nothing else. There's a half a point start being offered around just to separate the draw. A lot of doubt here in New Zealand by New Zealand rugby fans over the ability of their very proud All Blacks to win their 17th game on the run, but they look like a good unit, and today's where they're really the chips are down, and they'll pull out a big one today, I'm sure.
And look at this amazing scene at Eden Park. The crowd waiting very patiently and expectantly. And incidentally, after our live telecast today, we'll be replaying you highlights of the under-21 international between Australia and New Zealand, and some tremendous football in that game. Australia has won 4 times at Eden Park. Trevor Allen's side in 1949 got there. Rex Mossop won some very good line-out ball that day. And that was the year that New Zealand actually lost 2 test matches on the same day, the other in Durban, South Africa, and they lost to the Wallabies at Wellington. In 1955, Alan Cameron's Wallabies defeated New Zealand in the 3rd test here at Eden Park by 8 points to 3. Garth Jones was the only Queenslander in the side. 1978, Tony Shaw's side, and 1986, Andy Slack's Wallabies, coached by Alan Jones, recorded that superb victory by 22 points to 9, with the defence that day absolutely fantastic. I remember Topo Rodriguez's comment, "It was a matter of life and death. We were determined to tackle until we died." And who'll forget that tackle, Chris Handy, by Topo on Hickory?
It is one of the memorable moments of my recent rugby career, that tackle. It not only just was a tackle, Gordon, it was a... they declared war against the All Blacks that day, and they said, we refuse to take a backward step. The 1989 Wallabies have to have a similar attitude. They just don't want to be pushed back. I know there's great feeling in the team. Simon Poitevin has added a new dimension to the preparation of the team for the day, and they're really keen. So hopefully the new young bloods join with that.
So a mixed reception, understandably, for the Wallabies. Campese, the last man out. And the Australians are going to run against this very strong breeze in the first half. And a big moment for Tony Daly, the young prop from the Gordon Club, straight from club football, a baptism of fire against the All Blacks at Eden Park. Very strong young man. He bench pressed 165 kilos. And Shelford leads out the All Blacks. So a very big advantage for New Zealand with this breeze. Grant Fox, who knows the ground so well, it's his home territory, is sure to be posting that ball high. And Nick Barr-Jones, the Australian captain, his 35th test match, now only 1 behind John Hipple as Australia's most capped halfback. Lloyd Walker there, the much maligned man from the Randwick Club. Many critics feel that he should have lost his place after the Lions series. There's a big job on his shoulders this afternoon. Number 12 there, John Schuster, who left the field against the Pumas last week. 4 home victories for the All Blacks this year, 2 against France. They certainly received a shock in the first test at Eden Park. And there's AJ, Alan Wetton, and the 2 towering Eiffels from Australia, Campbell and Cutler. Great scene here, Chris Handy.
Well, there's the man in shot there, Gary Wetton, who's been the real engine room behind the All Blacks forward pack. At 2 in the line-out, he's almost unbeatable, and it'll take a great effort from Bill Campbell at 2 to wrestle ball from Gary Wetton. Particularly crucial ball. They're almost unbeatable in their own 22.
Derek Metzger, the well-known New Zealand personality, providing the vocals. Eden Park erupts, and plenty of Australian supporters over here, estimated at up to 8,000, as well as this massive TV audience around Australia and also in some of the Pacific Islands. And now Shelford to lead the haka. The Australian players refusing to watch their counterparts, and Australia with a very big task in this first half, running against the gale, and it could be anything up to a 15-point breeze. Michael Lynagh with the kickoff, and there's Mike Brewer, the new man in the New Zealand side. He played in all 3 test matches against the Wallabies in 1986. Appointed Otago captain at the age of 20. Today's referee, the Irishman Stephen Hilditch, an experienced campaigner who is headmaster at Belfast High School. He was in charge of the Wallabies Grand Slam match at Scotland in 1984. The Bledisloe Cup 1989 underway, and Gary Wetton gets the first touch. Bruce Deans now. And grubbering the ball into touch, Australian territory. Clive Norling, the Welshman, on the far side, in charge of the 2 Puma internationals. He's the touch judge, along with David Bishop from New Zealand.
You can see superb protection there for the jumper going up for the ball, and Dean's in depth there, was able to just push the ball down the sideline. Good advantage for the All Blacks at this early stage.
Good throw, Cutler. Pushing there against the Australians. Steve Cutler penalised. And so we've had, what, 45 seconds of play, and Grant Fox to have a shot for goal.
Well, Australia's seen a lot of those penalties go against them this year in line-out. We saw it against the Lions, that Australia went 1 out to try and interfere with the jumper of the ball and got pigged. The Lions, on the other hand, I think were just over the top, over that penalty line, but all did it together, and the referees couldn't pick it up.
So Grant Fox, this amazing point-scoring machine, now up to 286 points in internationals for New Zealand. And in his last 4 tests at home this year, 13 and 18 against France and 20 and 21 against the Pumas. That's an average of 18. Grant Fox passing Wayne Smith as the most capped New Zealand fly half of all time here today, 45 metres out. Just missing, left-hand side, Campese behind the in-goal and back for the 22.
It's going to be a great effect today, the breeze on the game. New Zealand running with it very strong, whether they kick with the breeze or whether they decide to run with it, that'll be the test.
And the ball going into touch, but the referee spotting a knock forward by Jeff Miller. So it's Poitevin and Brewer on this side. Scrum goes down. Schuster. Taken by Walker and Lynagh. The All Black forwards, here they come. Plenty of leg drive there from New Zealand. Coming out now for McDowell. Back it goes. Overlap here for Wetton. He's very close. Alan Wetton, can they get there? The referee's on the spot. Held up. Very nervous time there for the Australian camp. So close to a New Zealand try.
Inside centre, Schuster staying up in the tackle. First man there, Joe Stanley, the outside centre, keeping the drive going, joined by the forwards, rolled away by the forwards, staying on their feet all the time.
So here's the big pressure now for this revamped Australian scrum. Can they hold it? Far Jones has to stay behind the ball. Knock on by Deans, but the referee says Nick Far Jones was in front of the ball. You have to stay behind it. Chris, how did you see that first Australian scrum?
I was surprised. A very stable scrum by Australia. New Zealand were tending to put the push on. They drove the ball across field. I don't think they'd be terribly happy with the presentation of it. They have a penalty. I think they'd have preferred to have the ball in hand.
Quite interesting so far, just beyond that scrum, that the first backline movement by the All Blacks, again, they're the art of being able to keep the ball up off the ground and be able to keep it driving. They drove and drove right into the 22, nearly got to the try line, but they'd committed near 2 or 3 Australian backs, and had it passed the ball out, would have easily scored. Australia must put them on the ground if they've got any chance of today.
So some clever control at the back by Wayne Shelford, the All Black skipper. Far Jones allowed to follow the ball through, but he must stay behind it. Second penalty attempt for Grant Fox inside the first 5 minutes of this international. It's hooking, hit the upright and through. Grant Fox breathing a little more easily. He moves to 290 points in tests for New Zealand. So, New Zealand, the proud defenders of the Bledisloe Cup, will the status quo be prevailing here in about 80 minutes? You can no doubt hear the breeze onto our microphones. We're perched high above the grandstand, southern side of the ground. Overcast conditions, Australian body height just a bit high there. They've marched Australia 10 metres straight through the middle of the Australian maul. Good delivery now for the backs. Fox charged down by Lynagh. Good work by him. Here comes Williams. Walker tackled by Terry Wright. Tim Horan in there for Australia. And a knock on by the men in gold.
These rolling mauls by the All Blacks are extremely dangerous. Australians will just have to sacrifice themselves and go down and try and bring that pack down. Right now they're hanging around the edges trying to pull people around, as a player will have to go down, take the legs out. He might catch a few sprigs on the way, but he's going to have to do it for the sake of the side.
The high ball from Fox. Greg Martin coming in. He took it so well against the Lions, and he does it well here. Australia regroup and drive New Zealand back this time. Now the Australians trying to ruck it back, and the referee giving the scrum feed to New Zealand.
We talked about this earlier, maintaining the ball and winning possession from the ball taken in. The critical times, even if we have a 50% sharing of possession to Australia, it isn't enough. They must get that ball that they take in each and every time.
Grant Fox coming short side. Deans goes himself. Back in now to Shelford. Here's Alan Wetton running at the Australian inside backs. Walker was the tackler. New Zealand with numbers here. Schuster, Stanley outside, and so too is Cohen. He's well caught. Schuster picks up brilliantly. Back it goes to Brewer. Loose ball there for the halfback. Scrambly play by New Zealand. Now they have it back under control. Fox goes for the pot, sets himself, and across the face. And there the Australian reserves, Brad Gervin, Dan Crowley in the background, Peter Slattery, and Marty Roebuck, along with Mark McBain and Tim Gavin. This is Gary Wetton, who made his test debut against the Springboks in 1981 at this ground. That was that dramatic flower bomb test where Gary Knight was hit by a flower bomb from an overhead aircraft.
Some concern being shown from for Gary Wetton there. An injury to the face, looks like the nose and cheek area. Great concern being shown. He hasn't just grimaced and continued on like he would normally have done.
It was a very competitive ruck. He took the ball forward, laid it back, Australian forwards got there about the same time as the All Blacks, and I think he's probably picked up a spring on the way.
So now Michael Lynagh with the restart, Australian 22. 8 minutes elapsed in the first half. New Zealand leading by 3 points to 0. The Australians coming through, not taken by New Zealand. Daly has it for Australia. Good setup here. Good low body height from the Australians. Lynagh now, kicking the ball and finding territory. The ball bouncing around here for Wrights. Martin, 15 from halfway. Back to Lynagh. Back to Campese. Taking on Wetton. And they're into touch. But the Australians prepared to try things here. Nothing on that time.
No, Australia's powered well down that far side of the field, but they're going to have to win the continuity of play. They've just got to win 2 or 3 rucks balls in a row to commit the All Blacks to points on the field. Move the ball away from them when they get there. Counter-attack like that's good, mainly be able to open up the All Blacks, keep them apart.
Sean Fitzpatrick, his 21st international. And that's Brewer at the back. Not able to control. Line-out win there for Australia. Far Jones, grubbering, straight to Kerwin, and he lost it and regained it.
Good win by Australia that time in the line-out. Throw to the back, using the forwards, the All Black forwards to sweep around, but stolen. They must stand their ground and win more than they would normally do down in that area.
Far Jones. Knock on there by Wayne Shelford, who was through very quickly indeed.
Well, it's very dangerous here. Once the ball leaves the line-out, it leaves the fingers of the players gone up for it, the line-out's over. Come through. Shows the eagerness of Shelford and the rest of that All Black back row.
So far, the Australian scrum holding up extremely well. The 2 new caps in the front row. Desperately trying to maintain concentration. Jones and Deans. Again, it's a rock-solid Australian scrum. Lynagh to Walker. Looking now and finding Tyneman. Australians take it over the advantage line. Far Jones in there. New Zealand players there fringing. And the Australians again kicking. Gallagher with the chance to use his 22. Huge kick downfield. Campese over his shoulder. Spectacular stuff. Here he goes. The man with the twinkling feet. Taking play to within 12 from halfway. Bob Dwyer pleased with the Australian counter, but the Australians kicking the ball back to New Zealand, Gary Pearce.
Well, I mean, the only way, if New Zealand haven't got the ball, they can't score the tries. So it's really important that Australia keep the ball in the hand and try and play the ball wide. If you can take the ball, keep the ball away from the All Blacks, or when you've got it and they arrive at the situation, you'll be able to move it somewhere else, they get frustrated and their game plan starts to fall apart.
Well, the referee ruling that Australia dived over the ball on the ground, so another chance for Grant Fox. Stephen Hilditch telling the Australians to stay on their feet. Australia spoiling there in the tackle. Alex Griswiley, his nephew Richard Lowe, in the front row for New Zealand today. He's the only man that can call him Uncle Grizz. So Grant Fox, 10-metre line, Australian territory. We've had 12 minutes of play in this first half. Fox with just the one successful penalty kick so far. Phil Kearns, reserve grade there on the right last week for Randwick. Gary Wetton still in the hands of the New Zealand trainer. Very nasty blow on the face for him. This is the man that can break your heart if you're on the opposition side. And he caresses the ball through the uprights for another three-pointer. 2 out of 3 for Grant Fox. New Zealand out by 6. And we've had 13 minutes of play first half.
He's an amazing goal kicker, Gordon. I think when he was at the Cavaliers in South Africa, his success rate was something like 80, came in at 82%. Amazing record.
Well, Chris, there have been some encouraging signs so far from the Australian forwards.
Tony Daly's impressed me so far, Gordon, with his sweeping and his drive, his low drive, also his stability in the scrum. Eddie McIntyre's got a good handful against with Steve McDowell against him.
Campbell flicked the ball back to Miller, but New Zealand have sent Australia back in the tackle. Fox on his left foot. Ian Williams racing back for it. Good skills from him. Nothing on here for Australia. Williams now, chancing his arm, across field. Oh, he's taken high, nearly had his head taken from his shoulders. Referee says play on. Now it's Steve Tyneman. Campese gets around Kerwin. Here they go, Australia. Nick Farr-Jones. The try's on here. Campese's there. Campese! Great try! Tries in his first 2 tests against New Zealand back in '82. And that is number 33 in tests for David Campese.
What a start to the test. Here we had heaps of Australian players backing up there, but it was really the experience of Farr-Jones and Campese that really made the try.
Nothing to start this. Ian Williams brought the ball back centre field, and it was the creative work from Nick Farr-Jones. Simple, straightforward stuff. He saw Campese inside covered. He pushed the ball ahead to keep it under control, and they were just able to outdistance Schuster. Good, sensible play. Keeps the ball up the line. Didn't know Hail Mary passes back inside. There, just on the toe, Campese. Good skills. Over.
Well, David Campese, much maligned after the Lions series, showed glimpses of his best form against the Anzacs, and not often that someone steps around John Kerwin. Certainly John Kerwin stepped around David Campese plenty of times last year. Lynagh's conversion attempt is there. Scores are level. 15 minutes gone, first half at Eden Park.
Just what Australia needed early in the game. Parity with the All Blacks. They're running into an extremely strong breeze. It's very difficult conditions. The field looks wonderful on picture, but the conditions are very testing.
So the Australians very keen to run the ball at the All Blacks in this first half. Australia, the only try of the game, and there's plenty of composure in the Australian team. New Zealand still looking very concerned for Gary Wetton and Michael Lynagh. Campbell coming through with Tyneman. New Zealand tall timber went out. Alan Wetton there. Australia driving low.
The most important part about that last try, that it was a mini maul or mini ruck that won the ball. By the time that the All Black forwards had got to the play, the ball had actually gone blind, and that's the formula for success. Mini rucks and mini mauls.
New Zealand pushing before the ball went in. Yes, the other point there, the referee must have been unsighted with that high tackle on Ian Williams, so play continued.
Eddie McIntyre, Steve McDowell. McIntyre goes in across on the All Black hook of Fitzpatrick. McDowell driving in at his ribs and trying to push the Wallaby scrum across field.
Lynagh's torpedo kick, finding touch 10 metres from halfway. New Zealand just budging the Australian scrum initially, but then they dug their toes in. So it's all locked up at 6-all, 17 minutes gone in the first half. Very exciting match so far. Lovely throw by Fitzpatrick. Zinzan Brook is warming up on the sideline. Scrum feed here for the Australians, and that certainly will disrupt things for New Zealand. Gary Wetton apparently is in some real trouble here. And the referee saying Australia pulling the scrum down. They were moved by the New Zealand 8, and Fox now coming up to have a shot for goal.
I don't think the problem is on the loose head and at the hooker. Andy McIntyre is really struggling with Steve McDowell on this side. Fraction high, McDowell driving in and across and thus dislodging the hooker Kearns. And that backward movement, very difficult to stop in Australia that time, collapsing over the top of the ball to stop it being won by the All Blacks.
Very strong scrummage of McDowell, Chris. We saw in the Anzac game that against the Lions, his inclusion in the Anzac pack was really very good.
So now it's Grant Fox. He learnt his goal-kicking skills on his father's kiwi fruit farm at Tupuki, between two old telegraph poles. Can he find these two white poles here at Eden Park? .46 metres out. This to put New Zealand in the lead. 19 minutes first half. Hooking across, not easy from that side with the breeze straight over your shoulder. Scores remain at 6-all.
There've been some concern shown during the week here in New Zealand about the slow start by the All Blacks in their matches, and surely here there's only been a couple of flashes where they've been able to keep continuity and the ball up in the hands as they would want.
New Zealand not controlling that ball well from the kickoff, but now they have it in the maul. Poitevin in there, ripping it away for Australia. New Zealand drive in and get the scrum feed. Well, the New Zealand forwards has won that time as they went low and forced Australia backwards.
Perfect example there. You see when the New Zealanders get the ball, they're rolling around the edges. Australia having problem putting it to deck, but once an Australian gets in there, they push it forward to a ruck situation and get the put in.
Here goes Kerwin and Campese. Campese goes low and Miller comes in for the ball and all tackle. Kerwin and Campese both played the off-season in Italy and both very slow to find their form back on home territory. Phil Kearns, Australian under-21 captain last year. Good ball for New Zealand on the Australian throw. Line-outs two apiece. Fitzpatrick and Wetton. Lovely delivery here. Fox cut out now to Stanley. Lovely flick to Schuster. Only the fullback to beat. And there's the try to Gallagher. Oh, beautiful try. Silken passing skills from the New Zealand midfield. And John Gallagher scores his 12th try in internationals for the All Blacks.
Well, this is a class act, this try. This pass even was difficult to pick up watching it directly. You knew the loop was on, but where was the ball going to come from? Stanley did the complete deception, completely deceived the Australian backs and just flipped the ball inside to Gallagher. Great try.
You can see here, Schuster only knows one way, and that's straight up the middle of the field. But what tremendous backing up by Gallagher here. He didn't wait for any pop passes or over the top. He came in depth right from behind, had the option over.
Grant Fox, point-blank range, and New Zealand back out to their 6-point lead. One try apiece. And what a game this man's been for New Zealand rugby. Formerly with London Irish, and now one of the great running fullbacks of all time.
This is super football, this here. Not only do you give the flick pass, but you convince your opposite number that you're going to take it on yourself. Stanley did it well. Schuster was great in support. Gallagher has added a new dimension to All Black backline play, coming in outside the centres and in between the centres. A great try.
Here's Grant Fox on his left boot. Ian Williams underneath. He's under pressure here. He took his first high ball well. He does it again. And the safe option, 10 metres from halfway. Very good skills from Ian Williams. Fine all-rounder.
Both wingers have handled that high ball, put to them extremely well. And that time, Williams taking the good option, not getting trapped with all his forwards in front of him, just going up the line, and we'll stop there and start again with the line out.
Another good line-out ball for New Zealand. Here's Johnny the Shoe. Taken by Lynagh head on. Poitevins there. New Zealand again has the drive, but they lose it. Far Jones. Far Jones racing for the ball. Still in play. And Gallagher saves the day just 12 metres out. New Zealand took it in. Australia came out, and great individual effort there by the Australian captain.
Dwyer, I'm sure, would be happy with the way that his pack are working away at that ball. Schuster in back pay is still not back on side.
Australia desperately need this line out. Cutler goes high. Now it's Daly. And not in straight. John Schuster, who's left the field twice against the Pumas in the 2 internationals. He has a sore hip and a hamstring problem. So now it's back with Fox. A hurried left foot kick. Finding the touch. David Bishop, the touch judge on this side. New Zealand by 12 points to 6. 24 minutes gone, first half.
Philip Kearns, a difficult task during the week to get used to the jumpers, and also now with this howling breeze around, trying to be able to put the ball right on the spot.
Well, that one didn't look to be very straight. New Zealand come away. Referee plays advantage. Campese racing back for it. And these are the two that figured in that try for the Lions in the third test. But there's nothing fancy there. Midway 22 and halfway. Greg Martin, the sure-footed man from the University of Queensland, who really dazzled in his test debut.
We've seen very little of the ball so far, Greg Martin. The ball's being worked wide by the All Blacks, not deep.
Lynagh tackles Stanley. The Australian backs up very slowly that time. They were caught napping. Now New Zealand have the numbers. Schuster and Kerwin. Campese comes and holds him. Good defence by Campese, sweating on his opposite number. But the Australian backs caught asleep there.
Well, one of the plans certainly was for the All Blacks prior to this game was to let Kerwin try and run over the top of David Campese. And every time that's been questioned, David Campese's up there to really put him away.
Good ball for Far Jones. And low trajectory kick from Michael Lynagh against this very stiff nor'easter, taking play outside the 22.
Australia, though, are getting quality possession at the moment. They're winning a little bit of the All Black ball centre field. Their scrum ball is coming reasonably well, and the line-outs have improved.
Very deep alignment here from the New Zealand backs, and they have the ball here. Wetton goes back to McDowell. Time in the tackler, just outside the 22. Cutler tried to pick it up. Now it's Fox. Fox over the top. Back it goes for Williams, and no danger here for Australia as they force the ball down. Australia trying to keep New Zealand scoreless for as long as possible in this first half, knowing they have this very stiff breeze second term. One try apiece, Campese and Gallagher. Both tries converted. Fox has kicked 2 penalties. Lynagh's kick just a bit too deep that time. Wetton unopposed. Good platform here for New Zealand. Fox and Schuster. Here comes Gallagher out wide. Bad pass knocked on there by Wright. And we're just 6 metres from halfway Australian territory.
Good opportunity to look at both scrums from this play.
John Schuster certainly seems to be favouring that right leg. Not a good pass from him.
See how Steve McDowell drives in and across the front of Andy McIntyre. The ball's still not in. The referee, I'm sure, would be keen to make sure New Zealand don't put on the push, but also Australia must stay square.
Australia almost lose it. Picked up by Wetton. Supported by Shelford. Now it's Fox looking for space. Brewer, 10-metre line, Australian territory. Dean's in for the ball to Shelford. Shelford into Lynagh. He took him well. Australia get back to their feet. Poitevins there. It's out of the ruck. Play on, says the referee, and a good tackle. Now McDowell goes in. Australia come away with it. This is Cutler and Williams. Kicking too far. Not often you see 6'8" Steve Cutler playing at 5'8".
Australian forwards work very hard for that morsel of ball, but just the impatience of it all, trying to work it wide, and they haven't gained a metre.
Well, the Australians have certainly done their homework in the forwards. The ball was out of the ruck and they went in there to pick it up off the deck. 25 metres out. New Zealand leading by 6. Tall Timber wins it for Australia. Far Jones looking for support from his forwards here. No halfback. Lynagh goes in. Here it comes. New Zealand forwards and inside backs up offside. And that's a great kick by Martin. And the referee now awards the penalty, playing the advantage. 2 or 3 men there caught by the Australians offside at the ruck, and a relieving kick for the Australians.
Very smart balk there by Michael Lynagh, having probably watched it quite a few times from Nick Farr-Jones' stroke. He thought he'd never go himself.
Yes, well, his father, Ian, leading Brisbane sports psychologist, has had a few words with some of the Australian team members. He also did a grand job with the ACT team to gee them up for their match against the All Blacks. Against the Lions, I should say. There's young Tony Daly at the front, relishing his task so far. Campbell at the front does well, and Kearns the hooker, 105 kilos. Takes it ahead for Australia, but Fitzpatrick pulls him back. Comes out for New Zealand. Australia took it in and lost it. Fox, good support here from Brewer. Now it's Alan Wetton. McDowell clears cleverly. Schuster, Stanley, Kerwin comes inside. Australia sweat on him. Horan the tackler there. The Australians arriving in numbers, and the penalty goes the Gold way.
Good work.
Collapsing them all, says the referee.
Good work from Tim Horan that time. Saw Kerwin coming back obliquely and drifted off Stanley to be able to be the first man to tackle.
I must say the defence by Walker and Horan has been very good so far. They've been moving up into the centres, knocking them down on their side of the advantage line.
Well, some clever play there by Far Jones, catching the All Blacks napping, tapped the ball, kicked for touch, and has found it 10 metres out. Nine minutes remaining before the break, just 6 points in it. Referee calling for a clear tunnel. Sean Fitzpatrick, son of the All Black Brian, who was a fly half. Gary Wetton, two-handed take at the front. Brewer comes in, knocking one of the Australians out of the way, and Fox now gets ground. Not finding his touch. This is Martin. He follows. Now runs the Australians onside, and Gallagher, well caught by Martin. Who wants the ball? Deans goes in, and Grant Fox now sets his sights down the touchline. 12 from halfway.
All Blacks losing composure right now. They really haven't got depth in their play, not coming in behind and being able to push over that advantage line. Australia getting the All Blacks to the deck and being able to disrupt their rhythm.
Tyneman second from the back, going his way. But Alan Wetton got it. Miller there for Australia on the ground. And the referee not happy. And the referee awarding a penalty here. Looks as though there's been some playing of the ball on the ground. And is this within range for Lynagh? Against the very strong breeze, just over 40 out. He's going to have a shot.
I think you'll find this is Gary Wetton coming from the back here from this thing, taking out a player without the ball. Wetton, number 5, going across the line, not in chase of the ball, but simply to knock a player out of the way. I think it's the way it's went.
So Michael Lynagh now, 421 points in international football. Hugo Porter had 423 in internationals for Argentina. Low kick. But pushed wide, and Terry White in goal. Just really trying to really drive that one low against the breeze, and didn't strike it as fluently as he would have liked. 12 points to 6. 7 minutes before half-time. 1 try apiece. And this is Martin. Taking no risks here as Wright comes through. He's a big punter of the ball. So long in the shadow of Roger Gould has taken play back to halfway.
Well, as these minutes tick away, we've found that the All Blacks haven't really intelligently used this ball. They haven't really put the pressure down on the Australian team in the 22.
Ball thrown in, halfway line. Poitevin got that one. Far Jones now. Kearns. At the ball going into touch, says David Bishop.
They're not getting it their own way in the lineouts. The All Blacks, Australia, are working well. Tony Daly at number 1 is really contesting with Steve McDowell and trying to knock off a bit of ball that's going to the front to Wetton.
Up the back for Brewer, and Miller comes in, but snatched away by Wetton. Alan Wetton. Looks as though there's been some playing of the ball on the ground again by New Zealand. Poitevin has it quickly. And back there, says referee Hilditch. Poitevin was looking for the quick one. So it looks as though Wetton was on the ground and not releasing the ball, which you must do immediately.
Well, the All Black players taking the ball up are certainly turning and laying it back, but the support of their pack has been too shallow. They haven't really got themselves back into a deep position.
New Zealand leading Australia by 12 points to 6. 5 before the break. Very impressive performance by the Australians first half. Very good defence by the backs, apart from that one blemish, which led to New Zealand's try. Good jump there by Murray Pearce, and this is Fox. And he's taken play to within 8 metres of halfway. Well, Australia can't afford to lose their own line-out ball.
Bit of wrestling occurring at the back of the line out there between Brewer and Miller. Really, with a tap ball like that, Miller should have been able to get a lot more pressure on Fox, but he was interfered with on the way through.
Pushing out against New Zealand. It really is a bun fight in those lineouts, but the referee doing his best to control proceedings. 4 minutes before half-time. Lynagh looking for touch. Has he got the touch line? No, it's gone touch in goal. So back to the 22. Let off for New Zealand. That really was a grand opportunity there for the Australians to apply pressure just before half-time. Now it's Lynagh on halfway. And that's a very astute kick by Lynagh, finding open space, but the bounce doesn't go his way. Looked as though it was going straight towards the touchline, and that's John Gallagher in the last line. Australia desperately wants to hold on, keeping New Zealand scoreless, to trail by 6 at half-time. 1 try apiece. Fox with the 2 penalties, the difference. Long kick to Campese. What's Campo going to do? Lovely step. He leaves Wright standing. He follows now. This is dangerous. Clash of bodies. And the referee rules knock on by Bruce Deans. Good play there by Campese.
It's really a great opportunity for Australia now to really come forward and get some points. The All Blacks are having trouble picking the pace of the game up. They really are going to sleep. Australia just gets a little bit of ball, gets some continuity of second phase, and I'm sure they can get the try before half-time.
Good ball here for Tyman and Far Jones. High ball, it's holding in the breeze, but just a little too far, and Gallagher there for the mark. He was stationary, both feet on the ground, called the ball as it hit his chest. A little bit higher was the necessity there with that kick. 2 minutes before half-time.
John Gallagher was the London cross-country champion at the age of 11 years, and he takes play up to the halfway line. Quick line out played on. Here's Ian Williams. Right, doesn't put him to ground. Williams goes again now. Tries to set up. Pearce there in defence. Australia have it. Just 2 minutes before half-time. Poitevin goes again. Coming back Australia's way. No knock-on, says the referee. Back to Tyneman. Lynagh. Chipping into space. Well, again, perhaps Australia should have held on to the ball. Campese back there near his goal line. Very slowly. And he's going to kick the touch here. And that's a big kick too. New Zealand take the quick line out. Play on, says the referee. And Kerwin in space. Kern's the hooker there. Can't put him to ground. Kerwin still going up to the 22. Now it's Fitzpatrick. Pearce couldn't get it to ground. New Zealand have knocked on. Well, that was a let-off for Australia.
It's the moment that the pressure is taken off. People relax. The moment when the All Blacks are most dangerous. Good counter-attack, but equally good defence from Australia. Need to hang on here in these closing minutes of the first half. They've done marvellously well to get some stability, and there'll be some great confidence in the team.
Towed ahead here by the Australians. Now it's Kerwin. He gets away from the tackles. He's still going. Off Cutler's leg. Play on, says the referee. And it was off the torso there of Cutler. John Kerwin saying, what about the knock-on? But Cutler's hands weren't near the ball.
A tight head scrum win to New Zealand that time. Good drive. Steve McDowell operating extremely effectively from loose head on Andy McIntyre.
Australia here must try and win this line out and move the ball across field. Last time they had the ball, they ran in and around the rucks and walls and didn't really tie the ball up and didn't give any opportunity for their backs to know when the ball was coming or to set any movements up.
The ball straight up to midfield. Beautifully taken by Horan. He's on the halfway line now, and he's very strong, this young man. He goes over the halfway, and Australia has the scrum feed. The referee blows it up for half-time. So Australia in this match right up to their necks. 12 points to 6 against a very strong breeze in the first half. And I'd imagine, Gary Pearce and Chris Handy, that plenty of encouragement there for the Australians, because they really have taken the game to New Zealand in that first term.
Well, they've done well, Gordon, because they've been able to break up that pattern that New Zealand have been able to establish. But this is a great side, this All Black side. We've seen as a combination, they're able to lead or they're able to come from behind. They've now got the wind in their face, and I think they'll put their heads to the task. But Australia to be very encouraged by their performance early. The early nerves have settled in the new young players, and particularly Tony Daly going very well. So I think they're going on target at the moment.
So we saw 2 tries in the first half as the Australian players now in their huddle. Ian Williams, number 14, has taken some very good high balls. Cutler and Campbell have been rock hard in the second row, winning some very good line-out ball. So it's been, well, an exciting first half, and I think we're all sitting on the edges of our seats. No doubt you are at home, but it's 12 points to 6 New Zealand's way, and that is a very big breeze in the first half. And really, before we do talk to the boys, let's have a look at the try scored by David Campese. Skills from him. Nothing on here for Australia. Williams now, chancing his arm, across field. Oh, he's taken high, nearly had his head taken from his shoulders. Referee says play on. Now it's Steve Tyneman. Campese gets around Kerwin. Here they go, Australia. Nick Farr-Jones. The try's on here. Campese's there. Campese! Great try! Yes, that really was tremendous innovation by Farr-Jones and Campese, 2 of the most experienced players, and that was a body blow for New Zealand.
Certainly was. I think Australia's got a tremendous opportunity to be able to win this match. The All Blacks seem to be asleep in this first half. They haven't got their depth of power in their play. They're not coming in depth and driving over. They had the wind. They didn't do very much with it. Now they're in a situation where Australia's only 6 points off them. Australia's got the wind behind them and all the enthusiasm to win.
Chris.
Australia have got to do some fine-tuning to their game, Gordon, particularly in set play. The scrum, Andy McIntyre has got to nail down Steve McDowell to the ground. He's not doing it at the moment. They've got to be a little tidier in their line out and be able to get into those All Black rucks and to get some of that possession. It's looking good, but it's still a long way to go.
Yes, well, New Zealand also scored their try, and that certainly gave them the 6-point cushion at half-time. So there it is, 12 points to 6.
Patrick and Wetton. Lovely delivery here. Fox cut out now to Stanley. Lovely flick to Schuster. Only the fullback to beat. And there's the try to Gallagher. Oh, beautiful try.
So play just about to commence here. The two touch judges, David Bishop and Clive Norling, out there with Stephen Hilditch. And Stephen Hilditch, the Irishman, has been a bit of a good luck charm for the Australians. They saw him at the south of Scotland at Hoyk last year on the Wallaby Tour of Britain, and the Australians scoring a very good win that day. In fact, David Campese almost won the game single-handed before leaving the field after 30 minutes.
What's important here for Australia is that they've got to play the ball down into the All Blacks 22 and then move the ball wide through mini rucks and mini walls. Keep the ball away from the All Blacks.
So Stephen Hilditch just checking with the captain Nick Farr-Jones, and he says we'll have it now. The second half of the Bledisloe Cup 1989 underway here at Eden Park, and it's immediately Sean Fitzpatrick with the deflection from Wetton. This is Mike Brewer, tackled well by Poitevin, who rolls him over in the shoulder. Now it's Steve McDowell. Oh, great charge here from the All Blacks. There's a good line here. They have numbers. Schuster straightens. He gets through the tackle of Farr-Jones. Good protection from New Zealand. Out on the left is Terry Wright. This is Gallagher, but Martin's in good position. Right foot, not his favoured foot, and he finds the touchline.
Well, it's rather obvious that New Zealand have been told to pick up the pace by Alec Wiley. They started to get the drive forward, but they still look a little lost when the ball comes free. Australia are well spread across the field and were able to defend well.
Inside the Australian 22. It's a long one up the back. Miller took it brilliantly. Pushing out there by the Australians. Mike Brewer, the man who was on the receiving end, and New Zealand now with a chance to go further ahead.
Critical points here in the line-out, called pushing out of the line-out, Mike Brewer.
Well, you can see the game plan there. You can see the balls come to the back of the line out because the All Blacks want to tie up the Australian back row. Because Australian back row is getting into their inside backs, starting to tackle them, not making them able to get to advantage line, thus not getting the momentum for the rest of their pack to get onto the ball. So their game plan is to tie up the Australian back row and try and get that push over the advantage line.
Joe Stanley just speaking with Bernie McCarhill there. Joe Stanley playing his 23rd straight test. Invariably goes down injured in a game. Great campaigner for the All Blacks. For this to go out by 9. Grant Fox looking for his third penalty goal. 15 points to 6. Good kick there by Grant Fox. And that's a telling blow just after the start of the second half. 9-point lead for New Zealand. Yes, you saw a lot more urgency from the All Black forwards with the start of that second period. Lynagh kicking deep and play back now to the 22. Bernie McCarhill warming up for the All Blacks, the Aucklander. He's been a replacement in 4 of his internationals so far. So Grant Fox now looking for his forwards to get underneath this ball, aiming for it to hold up in the breeze. Very strong one here.
Australia must start to get possession from these kickoffs in 22 metres if they're to continue any meaningful attack.
Knock on by Australia.
Difficult right throughout the Lions series at home. The kickoffs in 22s, they've been a little unconvincing in getting possession there.
going to see a lot of running from the New Zealand backs against this breeze in the second half.
Good chance to see Tony Daly working very strongly on the loose head side.
Here's Grant Fox kicking that one deep and back towards the touchline. Nasty bounce here for Martin, but he can ram it back. And good follow through, good pressure there from Terry Wright. Terry Wright has scored 6 tries for New Zealand in the 4 test matches this year. Territorial advantage so far, though, for the All Blacks in this second half.
Line-out's 9-all at the moment. Good contest there.
Come on.
Miller and Brewer at the back, the 2 number 7s. Pearce going high and winning the ball one-handed. Schuster now. Back it goes to Stanley. Great tackle by Horan. Very low, and that one really hurt Stanley too. Australia trying to spoil. Fitzpatrick picks up. Poitevins there. Ball slipping out here for New Zealand. Here it comes. Low to Deans. And now it's Fox. Stanley. Cut out now to Kerwin. Gallagher's outside. Good tackle though by, well, he's holding on, Walker. The ball slipped away. 22-metre line. Deans to Fox. Now it's Stanley straightening up. He got through the tackle of McIntyre. Look at the line for New Zealand here. Pearce, he held on. Australia in desperate straits. There's a good line out here for New Zealand. Up they come. And the scrum just 5 metres out with the New Zealand feed.
Joe Stanley that time seeing the gap that had opened between the outside backs and also the forwards, straightened up play. It was a beautiful punch by him through the middle to start that attack.
So this is New Zealand's big chance. Good scrum ball. They try to move the Australian 8. They're holding very well. Now it's Shelford. Shelford almost there. 5 metres out. Deans goes for the line. 2 metres out. That's Richard Lowe, number 3, playing the ball on the ground on his knees. Now he gets up. Poitevin can see it. New Zealand trying to go straight through, but Poitevin spoiling things. Lowe's on the ground. Poitevin's got to get away from it. And New Zealand have been penalised. And you can see there Richard Lowe was on his knees playing the ball in the ruck. You can't do that. Number 3. You've got to be on your feet.
Well, examples there of New Zealand really overplaying that rolling ball too much. They had opportunity to move the ball wide, but they kept it in tight.
There was also a bit of stomping of the man too. And Lynagh has really put in a colossal kick here. Down towards the 22, New Zealand to run it back here. John Cohen, St. John as they call him here at Eden Park. Campese's first up there. Campese comes and drives him back. Halfway line.
Well, he stuck to him like a human fly, David Campese today. Well balanced, lines up Kerwin, and it's 3 or 4 occasions that he's been able to drive him into touch and not allow him to get the pass away to supports. Good concentration.
Wayne Shelford now down for New Zealand. Shelford, one of the oldest players out on the field at 31. He's played in the 2nd division in France during the off-season for Toec, and he made his debut for the All Blacks in Toulouse in 1986. Well, Bob Dyer, coach of the Australian team in New Zealand in 1982, they pulled off that wonderful victory at Wellington, but then lost by 33 points to 18 here at Eden Park in 82.
Big test for the Australian selectors today as well. Bob Dwyer and Bob Templeton and John Bain. They've picked a side which has got some strange combinations in there, playing with great heart here today, but France looms close by. Great look at chances here. McIntyre and Cutler and a lot of others unavailable for that French tour, so here we go, the stomping on the back. The ball was somewhere near there. It was the backward movement of the boot, but referee right onto it.
Well, the line-out closed up. Cairns, the young man, does well.
Good skills from Philip Kearns as well. Down over the ball, back up to his feet.
Referee again calling for the gap. 35 metres out from the Australian goal line. New Zealand looking a lot more hungry in this second half. Fitzpatrick, Cutler two-hander. Kearns does well. This is the number 2 for Australia. Back to Miller. He shrugs off and finds Poitevin. Good setup here by the Australians. Quick ball wanted. This is Kearns charging ahead. The young Turk. Now it's Lynagh. Lynagh looking for the far touchline. Spiral torpedo. He's got the bounce. And he got the touch too. 10 metres out.
Good constructive play. Really punching up hard that time, laying the ball back, making it available for Nick Farr-Jones without anyone about him. He's able to clear well.
Well, what an inspiring performance too from the young hooker, the reserve grader. He'll probably be back in reserve grade next week for Randwick. Eddie Jones is the number 1 hooker there. It's 10 metres out. Brewer at the back. Australia not winning their line-out ball. Kick also not finding touch. This is Martin, field goal attempt, but the referee's whistle is gone. And it was a throw that wasn't in straight in the line-out from Kearns. That was the problem. The referee played advantage. It didn't accrue.
They are struggling in that area, Australia, with the throw-ins to the line-out. Getting some degree of variation. Low, flat and hard.
Tony Daly certainly scrumming his heart out against Richard Lowe. Very experienced man from Waikato. But we're on the 22-metre line. New Zealand leading by 15 points to 6 and 30 minutes remaining in this international. Well, the Australian players very keen now to get some more points. It's Cutler at the back to Farr-Jones. But again, the delivery is not very tidy. Campbell trying to slip it back. McIntyre's there. New Zealand edge ahead. That's Bill Campbell there. And it looks as though the Blacks have the scrum feed. They were just a bit too constructive there for the Australians. Australia trying to wrestle the ball back, but it was too high for them. New Zealand getting down low. Gary Pearce, 15 metres from halfway. 30 minutes remaining. How do you see it?
Well, again, you've got the All Blacks trying to get back into the rhythm of the game, but they're getting knocked down by the Australian back row. They really haven't got any rhythm yet. Australia still needs to get that bit of ball, but they still look a bit directionless at the times when they've got it. They've got to hold the ball in their hand.
Fox is doing a lot of kicking and applying pressure now as Schuster comes through and right on Martin. He lost ahead. New Zealand's chance. Martin picks up. Knock on there by Greg Martin, the big fullback, as Schuster and Terry Wright came through. Greg, you've got to hold on to those ones. New Zealand looks as though they could work something on a big short side here. Gallagher's come up with Terry Wright. Good New Zealand scrum. Schuster has gone to the left now. Here's Gallagher, man on man. He gets through Martin's tackle. Now it's Wetton and Shelford, just short of the 22. Here they go again. Working it open side Schuster. Stanley gets away from Walker and Lynagh. He's beaten 3 tackles. Walker comes again to bring him down. Dean's in for the ball. Look at the line here in New Zealand. It was a bad pass. Play on, says the referee. Fox is caught. And driven back here by the Australians. Well, a try went begging there for New Zealand. And now the penalty is awarded. Going over the top and playing the ball on the ground, says the referee. And McIntyre and Tyneman, the last 2 men out.
Pretty hard decision there because the Australians were really swarming and tackling and the ball was going, they were going forward. At some stage something had to give and it looked as though a New Zealand player had half tripped and the Australian players went over mainly due to their momentum rather than trying to kill the ball.
Perhaps Australia may have been a bit lucky though, because there was a little bit of offside play earlier on.
What's really shown in this game is that Shelford's play, I think, has deteriorated since he's gone across to France. He plays the game a lot more shallow now, and we saw that quick pass that came out there. He was too shallow, and the ball went behind him.
New New Zealand really playing their best football now against this strong breeze, just as Australia did in the first half, although they trailed by 6 at the break. This is going to put New Zealand out to a very handy lead. 12 points if successful. And this is going to be very close, but missing. No, it's not. The two touch judges combined very well there. David Bishop held, then looked back to communicate with Clive Norling, who'd moved across to that near upright. And in concert, they said, yes, it was over. It snuck inside. So Grant Fox now bringing up 300 points in Test match football for New Zealand. Low trajectory. And Fox off the side of his boot, but Australia trailing by 12. Four-man line out by the Australians. Campbell and Cutler, 2 men at the front.
Line out shading Australia's way 12-11 at this stage, but Ruck and Maul still going firmly in the All Blacks' favour.
Here's Lloyd Walker out of Poiterman, charging ahead at Shelford, his arch rival. Set it up beautifully for Tyneman. Australia with a promising build-up here. Now it's Campbell. 15 metres out. Australia want the continuity.
The difference between
the
both
ruck had gone
teams
down
at that stage is just that the All Blacks are able to stay on their feet when they carry the ball in possession. And that's 3 times there. Firstly, Poiterman, Tyneman, then Campbell going to ground, making it more difficult.
Can Australia put something together here? So New Zealand just reorganising their scrum. Well, we've seen Australia lose a couple of tight heads in attacking situations against the Lions. But this scrum looks very strong indeed in the front row. And it's another good one for Australia.
Tony Daly doing very well.
Now they shut New Zealand. They've moved them a few centimetres. Far Jones now, Lynagh. Here's Tim Horan, the young man bursting out of tackles. Sets up well. New Zealand player on the ground there playing the ball. The referee didn't see it. Still comes Australia's way. Kearns the hooker. Back it goes to Far Jones. He threw the big dummy. Australia 10 metres out. Far Jones calling for it. New Zealand holding on here. And the penalty right in front of the goalposts. Well, Australia really had New Zealand stretched there. You could see it, the goal line. And Lynagh from right in front.
They needed that ball to come back that time, didn't they, Gordon? It was there. Cutler got rolled over when he went to ground rather meekly, and it just couldn't get that flow.
Well, interesting there, Australia picking up the pace of the game. They've been moving it around the edges, driving hard. Okay, they're not staying on their feet, but they're actually driving that extra metre and trying to clean out over the top for the next bloke running onto it. It's frustrating the All Blacks because whenever they go to that impact point, the ball's not there.
Tim Horan showing very good leg drive, good strength, very strong in the thighs to burst his way through tackles. Lynagh from right in front scores the 3 points. We're back to a 9-point difference. 23 minutes remaining in this international. Nail-biting stuff. 18-9 for New Zealand. Tries to Campese and Gallagher, New Zealand. Grant Fox with the penalty goals. Has that 9-point lead his side's way.
Australia must use this mini ruck situation to pick up the pace of the game. And that's then that we find that the All Blacks wanting when they can't get to the ball and the ball's moved away from them and moved wide.
New Zealand very good at these kick-outs. Nice high ball. Well contested. Far Jones can see it. Now it's Lynagh. And he's really hammered that one downfield. This is Gallagher. Going to run it back. He beats Horan easily. Walker comes. Now it's Brewer. Great counter here. Brewer lost ahead. Here's Tim Horan. And just putting the ball into touch. But the referee pulling it back for the knock forward by Brewer. The Australians just needing a few more chases that time to put pressure on. Scrum holds well. Lynagh hoists. And this one outside the 22. Campese and Kerwin. He's found a gap. Tyneman the tackler. Little knock on there by Pearce. And the referee pulls it up. So mistakes coming from New Zealand. Australia coming right back into the game over this last 5 minutes. 18-9. 21 minutes remaining. New Zealand, though, in front, as they've been from the outset.
Australia must put more pressure on those kicks when they do go up. We saw the ball come through. David Campese really didn't put the power on to get there and put Gallagher on the ground.
Martin's come in on the short side. This is Steve Tyneman. Australia trying to drive it in. Lynagh. Kicking now for Williams. He wants the bounce, but the ball beats him over the touchline. Just 18 metres out.
Seen Lynagh pushing the ball ahead most of the second half. There hasn't been a backline move pulled in close. It'd be interesting to see Campese and also Williams used in and around the centres. Maybe that lack of experience there at outside centres making Michael Lynagh create more play himself.
I'd really like to see Martin out wide to a cutout pass to him and really make Stanley try and stretch himself to get out to get that extra man.
Well, again, Gary Wetton commanding at the front of the line out. Good two-handed take. There's not a lot of ground gained, though, by New Zealand. They find themselves 26 metres out from the goal line. But a fairly hushed crowd here at Eden Park. The All Blacks really being pressed here for the first time in several test matches. France got to within a point of them and actually hit the lead in their 2 test matches. And it's Lynagh. Here's Walker again. Good pass to Horan and lovely hands. This is now Williams. And the referee says the pass went forward.
If Martin's to hit the line, he's got to hit it at a different angle and a different pace. At that stage, the ball came across and he was running at exactly the same angle as everybody else. Thus easy to read.
There were some lovely quick hands there from the Australian backs. The final pass just going astray. Scrum wheeling, 90 degrees.
You can see the true value here of the back row, the breakaway especially, keeping the weight in on the props back
Bruce
there.
Deans. Just chipping up. Kerwin comes in. Tyneman there and Martin. Good combination. Oh, that's a loose pass. Lost ahead by Alan Wetton. This is Poiterman. Right on halfway. Cutler in there for the more ball. Kearns is there too. And Australia with the scrum feed. Back for the knock on. 18 points to 9. We're in the final quarter of the game now. 19 minutes remaining. Another good deep channel ball for the Australians. Deans, he was offside. The referee plays advantage. This one holding up nicely, tantalisingly near the 22. This is Horan. Great tackle. Now it's Stanley caught. New Zealand didn't bother here. They have to release. And it's a penalty for not releasing Joe Stanley, the man on the ground. And there was a big hit there by young Tim Horan.
Good attack by Horan, but it shouldn't have only been one. There should have been a couple coming forward for that kick by Lynagh. Stanley taking the ball to ground and just not releasing immediately, as the law says. So he goes to ground, he tries to protect. He's out on his own, he places it there as he's allowed to do. But he just keeps his hand over the top and keeps the control there as the Australian forwards arrive.
Gary Pearce, some very hungry Australian back rows there at the breakdown.
Certainly were. As Horan came through and put him to deck, it was able to put the ball onside, and they got there very fast. But as Chris said, it's more than just Horan's job to come through there. That kick there is really for David Campese to come through from the blind side, and David's got to get more into the game.
17 minutes to go. This to reduce the leeway to 6. Lovely strike of the ball. It's there. Well, Lynagh says that kicking goals is the same as chipping with your 9-iron, and that one was landed right in the middle of the green. 6 points the difference. Nervous time for the New Zealand crowd here as Australia really start to apply some pressure. Conditions getting very dark. The breeze still very strong in Australia's favour. 18 points to 12. Another high ball from Fox. Cutler's there. He goes high. Miller. Jeff Miller's been everywhere for Australia, but New Zealand get a bit of a drive on here. And it's come out for Deans. Now to Fox. High ball. This is a tester. Martin racing back. It's coming down near the crossbar and too far.
Australia again found wanting in that kick-off area, not able to consolidate and be able to drive back as the All Blacks have been able to do.
Lynagh has kicked from 22 to 22. That one landed right on the line. And this is Fox as Horan comes through. And good pass here for Kerwin. Australia converge and tackle well. Wetton's there. Kearns there for Australia holding him. Here it comes for Deans. And a clever little kick. Campese still in play. Great skills. Now it's Martin. Keeping New Zealand pinned in their territory. Look at this kick. It's a beauty. Quick line out. Gallagher now. Good play, New Zealand. Very composed at the back and taking play back outside the 22. Pretty to watch.
Good skills shown all across the field that time. David Campese perched on the sideline like a tight wire artist. Greg Martin putting in his couple of bobs worth, and good defence by the All Blacks to react quickly to what could have been a nasty situation.
Well, a lot of pushing going on. Oh, good work there by Brewer, tackled by McIntyre. New Zealand hungry that time with the ball. Pushing Australia back. Very good body height again from the New Zealand pack. 6 points the difference. 15 minutes to go for Bob Dwyer and his Australian team. Can he pull off a famous victory? Another good scrum for Australia. Farr Jones coming through. Shelford cleared well. Deans again just chips high. Martin. Deans the tackler. Timon there. Timon's been a tower of strength for Australia today. Very strong in the air as well. New Zealand again forcing Australia back. Now Lowe's going in like a rabbit for the ball on the ground. This is Kerwin to Fox and Schuster looking for a run. Schuster caught by Lynagh. Beautiful tackle. Brewer's there now. And McIntyre. New Zealand drive in again. Very strong wind here. Fox ahead. Astute kick. Just too far though. Oh, the breeze really took that one across the touchline and we come right back to the halfway line. Things just not going quite New Zealand's way at the moment. And it's a 6-point lead their way. Australia never in front in the game. 14 minutes to go. Inverted try would tie it all up for Australia. Here comes Kearns through on Deans. It's a good tackle by the hooker, but superb support there from Wetton. Cutler in for the tackle. McDowell there. Cleared the ball to Shelford. Australians swarming in. And it looks as though Phil Kearns was just a little premature that time. Just a little bit too keen there, the youngster. Deans. They play on quickly now to Wetton. New Zealand catching Australia a little bit by surprise. Retire 10 metres, Australia, says the referee. Deans comes again. Here he goes. Miller the tackler. Now it's Fitzpatrick. He was barreled by Campbell. This is Shelford. Oh, the tackling is tremendous here. Both sides throwing themselves into the fray. Ball available again. This is Richard Lowe into Cutler. Fitzpatrick drives in. Can New Zealand spin it wide now? There's a very good line. This is Brewer and Schuster. He's still going. Campese holds on. New Zealand with a big chance. Shelford wants to get it out wide. A try could win it for New Zealand now. Fox, they want the big one. And it's right. He went without it. Horan there for Australia. Lost ahead. And a scrum here for the Australians. Alex Wiley desperately wanted that try. Gallant defence, reminiscent of 86 at
Good continuity
Eden Park.
by the All Blacks, but no finish. They haven't been able to put in the cruncher right at the end. Great defence by Australia. Good tackling. They're spreading wide, taking a man, and they're really lining him up and driving him across towards the touchline, putting in great pressure.
The test match is still in the balance here. New Zealand, though, in the driver's seat. And the Australian scrum again, providing an excellent platform. "11 minutes remaining in the game now. Martin and Lynagh back there. He wants a big kick. And he's really pulverised that ball back over halfway. But Gallagher now runs back at the Australians. Ian Williams can't take his man. And Gallagher into touch. His teammates can. Poitevin and Tyneman both played in that victory for Australia in 86 here at Eden Park. In fact, the 5 back forwards did for Australia.
You see the enthusiasm there in the back row of Simon Poitevin and Steve Tyneman coming through, really wanting to get hold of Gallagher. Only giving him one option to go into touch.
Pulling out the gang tackle, Gary. Good work, working as a pair.
Murray Pearce jumping off shoulders, holding Cutler down that time. And so now Michael Lynagh coming up. And he's going to look for the far touch. Now New Zealand from inside their 22. And Australia has the throw into the line out now. But it's 5 metres into New Zealand's half.
Australia just trying too hard there. The ball really should be putting in fairly close to that touch line to get the ball into there so they can get less options for the All Blacks to be able to find ground off a returning kick.
Bruce Deans now, and Fox. Terry Wright's following this one. Martin inside the 22. Plenty of time, no pressure. Certainly the time to unleash a big one. And he's done just that. 30 metres out.
It's time now for Australia to play with the ball in their hand. They've got themselves down to the 22. It's now to be able to play those mini rucks and mini mauls. Move the ball wide. When the All Blacks have got it, they should be required to go up and do the tackle, pick the ball up and pass and move it away from their bigger forwards.
Alan Wetton doing well. Lowe picks up, and offside play by Australia. Well, just spoiling themselves again. First knock on, though, by New Zealand. Australia getting close, and Australia needs to chase hard. Gallagher's underneath, and he took it brilliantly, and he's been played the mark on the goal line. Well, if that wins the game for New Zealand, don't be too surprised. Still plenty of time left, though, for Australia to get level. 9 minutes remaining.
Great test for Gallagher on the move. Australia had the runners through that time, but clever footballer.
Australia's got to control their own destiny here. Whenever they can get hold of that ball, compete for it in this line-out. We'll see here it's a shorter line-out, so therefore giving the jumpers a bit more room, a bit less chance of being interfered with. Campbell wins it well.
To Lynagh. Quick hands now to Poitevin. He sees the corridor. Good tackle by Wetton. Good set-up too. Here's Campese. Campese, a banana kick. 5 metres from the goal line. Campese got it back to Miller. Now Kearns is there. Slips it back now between his legs. Or trying to. Lynagh and Walker. Walker goes himself. Well, that's the ball Australia want. And they get the scrum feed.
Difficult situation that time with the All Blacks lined out in defence. Walker going up a little bit softly and not ensuring that the ball was won by Australia. That was the time when it was from broken play.
Well, a converted try would have the scores level. Australia marching New Zealand here. The scrum goes down. This is Far Jones. And here comes Martin trying to bust through. New Zealand were waiting for that one. They got away with it against the Lions. Now it's Lynagh. Lynagh tries to straighten. New Zealand driving back. He got the pass away to Kearns. And then he got it to Far Jones. Now it's Campbell. The players are very tired here. And the referee says it went forward.
The All Black backs up offside on the far side, cutting out the option for Australia. Desperately trying to get the ball back. Going a little bit far out of their grasp, and they weren't able to, they didn't have any players deep enough to run onto the ball. They were all flat.
Chris Simon-Poiterman there in the background has called in the Australian forwards. One last effort here. It's one last hurrah for Simon-Poiterman. That's Mike Brewer. He's down for attention. But the Australians know that the converted try would tie the scores.
They've certainly tested this All Black combination today. We haven't seen Alan Wetton. We've seen very little of Buck Shelford at the back. He's been unable to penetrate. Gary Wetton was quietened by a facial injury early. McDowell has stood out head and shoulders above the rest. It's just been difficult for the All Blacks to finish on the flanks. Wright's seen nothing of it. Kerwin's been well marked, and it's Schuster and Stanley have been the ones left to do the line busting.
Grant Fox again with the safety of the touchline. 30 metres out, 6 minutes to go. Australia trailing by 6.
Again, Australia will play the short line out again here, looking for that uninterrupted possession coming from their tallest line-out men. Australia again will be looking to run onto the ball, run it straight, commit the All Blacks.
Cutler at the back well to Campbell. Campbell charges ahead. And the referee says it wasn't in straight. That's been a bit of a problem area for the Australians, but in defence of the man throwing in, very difficult conditions for the youngster Kearns. Very blustery breeze here. Shelford and Deans. Rick Martin down the touchline. And this is Gallagher. Again, very sound at the back. No angle that time. And Clyde Norling says, touch 30 metres out. 5 minutes to go.
Still the gold jerseys pile on the pressure. Territory is theirs. They're getting possession. They just need to get a little bit of continuity, a little bit of flow from one play to the next. Working desperately to get the ball, which is good to see.
Cutler got it. And the New Zealanders come through on the ball. That's Fitzpatrick. Well, Australia just tapping it back. New Zealand preying on the crumbs. Now it's Brewer and Lynagh. Lynag's tackled extremely well in midfield for Australia. Here they go again. Fox goes short side. There's numbers here. He sees a gap. He's gone straight through. Grant Fox now, and Kerwin looms. John Kerwin. Numbers here for New Zealand again on the 22. Australia can't give a penalty away, let alone concede a try, because that'll be the end of the game. Steve McDowell. New Zealand drive on. Fitzpatrick. And the penalty goes Australia's way. One of the Australians appears to be almost unconscious.
I think it's Tony Daly. No, it's not Daly.
Bill Campbell.
Good drive by the All Blacks that time. All started from a loose ball from the line out. Sweeper not coming. Break made by Fitzpatrick. Continued on by the All Blacks using the line as their friend. The ball back to Deans. Grant Fox. They asked during the week whether this bloke was as good as Michael Lynagh. Fox showing that time when there was the gap that he could run into it and set up play.
You can see the great advantages there of moving in with body height. Each of those players that came and picked the ball up, they had the option either to drive through, take a player out, or pick it up and run on. It's a tremendous disciplines in New Zealand rugby that all forwards coming in run with about very, very close to the ground.
Well, I suppose not too many Australians can bear to watch this kick, because if Grant Fox gets it, the Bledisloe Cup is safe in New Zealand. We have 4 minutes remaining. But New Zealand's very settled team, as we mentioned, only the one change to their lineup in the last 6 test matches. They know each other's play so well, although they've been unsettled by this gallant Australian team today. They've just had that little bit more cohesion and certainly had the better controlled line-out ball. Gary Wetton has been a tower of strength at the front in that regard. But it's not an easy kick for Fox. It's only 8 metres in. He's on the 22-metre line. And this will clinch the Bledisloe Cup for New Zealand if successful. Three minutes to go. And it's swinging and misses. Australia's still alive. Horan touches down. Ooh, that was very close, say the Australian players. Here's Campese, and a big drop kick downfield. Straight to Grant Fox, back to Stanley, and Gallagher looms. The Australians a bit slow to come up here. Gallagher, driven back by Poitevin. What a lion-hearted performance from Simon Poitevin today. Now it's Fox again. There are a few gaps appearing in the Australian back. Stanley went without it. Horan picks up. The referee, I think, playing the advantage here. Appeared to be a knock-on by Stanley, but no, he says not. Now it's Grant Fox, hugging the touchline. That's a real heartbreaker. 3 minutes now. 2 minutes, says the clock. 120 seconds for Australia to pull it off. A draw is their best result.
Not one Australian forward has given up the ghost. Simon Poitevin driving in that time as he's done most of the game. Full and total commitment. They've played their hearts out. There's been some limitations with getting this new combination together. A short period of time, but they've done extremely well. And there, Bill Campbell, the Queensland captain, showing the pain. The heavy scrum earlier.
Tim Gavin is coming on, Chris, in the last 2 minutes of play. Well, a marvellous effort here by big Bill Campbell. He certainly has been an inspiration as the Australian forward leader this afternoon.
He struggled with a rib injury, Bill Campbell, in the latter part of the season.
And Tim Gavin has been cleared to run onto the field. He's on for his fourth cap. His first was against the All Blacks at Ballymore last year in the 19-all draw.
A lot of enthusiasm from Tim Gavin here. He's had a big season so far this year. Worked very, very hard and been very unlucky not to have been selected in any of the major games.
Big jump by Pearce. Now they clear it wide to Stanley in space. Australia has somehow got a pill for this ball. New Zealand roll it. Fitzpatrick is there, charging ahead like a wild rhinoceros. Australia hold on McDowell. Desperate defence here. 1 minute, 50 seconds to go. New Zealand close, and there's the try. That's it. The Bledisloe Cup. And Richard Lowe has scored the try. His first ever in a test match. And what a time to do it. Australia's courageous and very brave effort here today is at an end. All smiles for New Zealand. And it was their great forwards who did it.
You said it true, Gordon. Steve McDowell, Richard Lowe really pulled out a good performance in there. The back row, they've overshadowed the back row by far today. And it's fitting that they should score underneath the post to seal the Bledisloe Cup.
Well, the scoreboard doesn't reflect the story of this game. New Zealand by 24 points to 12, exactly double Australia, but they've been made to fight tooth and nail by the Australian team.
Well, as we can see here, Stanley had made advantage line, but the forwards got there fast, and Lowe got in there, and the rest of the All Blacks behind him came right over the top, pushed him over for a great try.
Yes, a great moment there for Richard Lowe from Waikato. We're inside the last 30 seconds now, and this is John Kerwin, who appeared to put a foot into touch. No, says the referee. This is Horan. Well caught by Schuster. There's McIntyre in for the ball. And Australia look as though they'll have the last scrum of the game. But the final hooter might even beat this scrum. New Zealand by 24 points to 12. It's been a very tight test match, an enthralling struggle. And the countdown from the crowd, 3 seconds to go. There it goes. The referee says we'll have it in, please. Last chance for Australia to score a try. Put it down, says the referee. Now it's Michael Lynagh and Walker. Campese. Here's Tim Horan. Horan now to Williams. Williams still going. He's almost through. Tyneman. Last-ditch effort from the gallant Australians. New Zealand player diving in over the ball. They'll go for a tap here. Well, if only the Australian outside men had received more ball in this game. But full credit, though, to New Zealand. They've deprived Australia of that vital possession. And this is Gary Wetton. Play has to continue now that the penalty has been awarded. We're certainly in injury time. The referee actually putting the ball down himself away from the injured man so that play can continue. So Australia set it up here. Here's Lynagh with the kick over the top, and it's a scramble. The match is all over. The crowd goes up. An epic victory here for New Zealand against a very determined and courageous Australian side. 24 points to 12. Well done, All Blacks, and well done, Australia, too. They certainly played their hearts out. Comments, Chris Handy, Gary Pearce.
Well, Gordon, Australia went into this game and they knew that they were going to do it tough. They had to get possession. They got enough, but it wasn't enough on the day. They did test the All Blacks particularly well. Rarely have you seen the All Blacks so disjointed. No flow in their play, and that was due in part to the hard driving play and the driving tackling of the Australians. Some new experiments. Horan did very well at outside centre, always stayed on his feet and maintained possession. Daly at loose head was strong. Kearns in the scrum was good. He struggled with his put-ins to the line-outs. But Australia really need to look now towards the Tour of France and to use this game and the performances to help in the selection of a team that can really go on and consolidate there.
Well, it was a very interesting game. You could see the All Blacks probably didn't have one of their best games, but they stuck to their guns. They stuck to their game plan. At the end of the day, there were players that didn't play up to their potential, but because they had understood where they were going, that's why they won the game. While the Australian team certainly tried hard with a lot of enthusiasm, but still some questions have to be asked on how the Australian direction or the game plan's being put together on the ground. Enthusiasm kept Australia in the game, but it was only really to the last couple of minutes did we see that the true game plan that should have been employed, moving it wide, keeping it alive, keeping the ball, players running onto it. Really got to try in the last bit. If we'd been able to do that earlier on, it could have been a very different game.
So the victorious All Black side followed in by Australia, and congratulations to the Australian side. They've certainly had their knockers back home, and I think a few critics back home would be chewing on their newspapers. And Wayne Shelford holds aloft the Bledisloe Cup. New Zealand deserved winners here this afternoon. And the crowd really savouring this moment. They're used to New Zealand winning internationals. They've now gone 17 without loss.
Big win made a big difference to both sides. Thank you to the All Blacks. Last game of the New Zealand home series, and we got 5 out of 5. Also to the public out there in all placement play test matches this year, thank you for your support. And I think last but not least, I must say a special thank you to the man who wasn't here today. It's Michael Jones, who's watching on the television. Thanks very much, Mike, for your services this year. I hope to see you in England and Ireland, Wales, sorry. Thanks very much.
Triumphant New Zealand skipper Wayne Shelford, inspiring leader of the All Black pack, Nick Farr-Jones.
Firstly, obviously, congratulations to the All Blacks. You've had a great season again, carried on from 87 and 88, and you're undefeated from those years. You again showed that you've got what it takes to win when the pressure's on. And I talk about pressure because I think the Australian team put plenty on you. And I thank my players very much for that effort, the tremendous commitment. And unfortunately, we just fell down at the end, but let's give credit when it's due. And All Blacks, you deserved your win. Finally, I'd like to wish the All Blacks a good tour to the UK. And I know that we'll go to France, the Australian team, with plenty of spirit, plenty of commitment. And I know that we'll do well there. Cheers.
Very eloquent words there from the Australian skipper, who certainly, like his 14 teammates, tried their hearts out this afternoon. And I, for one, was very proud of the Australian performance here against very great odds. Very tight game. Only New Zealand in the last couple of minutes scoring that try to seal it. 24 points to 12, the final score. We're standing by for an interview. And down there in the tunnel is Peter Williams. Well, problems there technically for Television New Zealand, but Gary Pearce and Chris Handy, a very exciting game. The best side won on the day, but I think full marks to the Australians for sticking to it and giving New Zealand such a hard fight.
Yeah, it was a very exciting game. It was pretty cold up here, but it kept us warm, jumping up and down on tries and running around. But it was a great game, and I think the enthusiasm shown by the Australian players showed that Australia's got the skills out there. All they need to be able to mould those skills together over the next couple of years, and the World Cup can be a real award for us.
Yes, Chris, New Zealand have been a very settled combination, very good team. Australia throwing in all those new faces, maybe one or two more games under their belt, the result could be turned.
Well, Gordon, there's a few of these players who are retiring, a few not available for France. South Africa, of course, looms in the background. There will be changes to the Australian team, and it's probably up to the selectors to pick the team to go onwards. They need a combination. They need to pick that combination for 1991. You just can't appear at that time with the side and say we're here to win it. They've got to start now, and with Kearns and others, they've got a good young combination.
Yes, well, it was a great moment for Richard Lowe, although we're going now to Peter Williams with Nick Farr-Jones.
Happen, but it shows what a great team they are when the pressure's on and they can produce that last 5 minute when they get the forwards rolling on and place pick up, and makes it very difficult, and that's probably why they're undefeated since '87.
Are you a bit annoyed that you couldn't cash in more with the use of the wind in the second half?
Yeah, we've got to have possession. It's taking nothing away from our forwards because I think they were terrific today. But, you know, in the second half when you've got the wind, while it's a big advantage once you got the ball in the hands, it's difficult because it makes it hard for the line-out fellas. You know, the ball blowing away from them, and we sort of really didn't get control ball there as we would have liked to have. And as I say, you've got to have possession to play field position, and we didn't have it. But I think the forwards put up a tremendous effort, some great tackling and some great driving.
Nick Farr-Jones, all the best for your tour to France later on in the year. And we'll see you back in New Zealand for 3 more tests next year.
Yeah, cheers. Bye.
Nick Farr-Jones.
Yes, well, Peter Williams there with Nick Farr-Jones, and thanks very much to Chris Handy.